There are two ways to mix down multi-track sessions and then create files from them, and a third way to mix down a subset of a multi-track session. I'm going to show you all three ways here. Go get 1303 saving multi-track inside the working files multi-track session subfolder right there. We're going to mix this down. We're going to take this mix, and we're going to essentially export it via the master here to then create a file, a stereo file that we can then save as that file, or we can do more editing to it again later. So we're going to mix this guy down, and here's how we do it. We can either make a selection by taking the time selection tool and select an area that we want to mix down. We can just mix down part of it, or we can mix down the whole thing. So I'm going to go over to multi-track, mix down session to new file, and there are two choices, time selection or entire session. If it's the time selection, it'll be, just a part of the entire multi-track mix from here to there, but I don't want to do that here. I want to do the entire session, so I'm going to click on that. And that's going to create a new file. That new file will show up inside the Files panel and also over here in the waveform editor. Just listen to it for a second.
I couldn't give you what you wanted.
So we've heard that before, but now it's mixed down as a stereo file. It's a specialized PCM file that is stored in a temporary folder as a temporary file, and now it's just waiting for you to save it in some format that you can use later. If you want to, you can trim away the beginning a little bit, trim away the end, you can apply effects to it, you can cut it, whatever you want to do with it. There is this file waiting for you to then save it someplace. So you know how to save files, but just as a quick reminder, you just go to File, Save As, and go through the process that you've gone through before when you've saved a file. You just pick a location, give it a name, pick a file type, format, what have you, and then save it. And that's all there is to it. Pretty straightforward. Let's go back to the multi-track session again. This time I want to save it in a different way. I want to save it where it's immediately saved with a file name instead of this sort of temporary holding pattern over here waiting for you to do some work with it and then save it. To do that, you export it. Go File, Export, and then choose Multi-Track Mixdown. And again, you can do time selection or entire session. I'm going to choose the entire session. And that opens up this pretty elaborate looking dialog box with all kinds of possibilities here. And that's because you're going to save it now. You're not going to just put it in a temporary holding pattern. You're going to actually give it a name and a location and save it. So I'm going to pick the default name here just to make things simple. I'm going to put it in my Audition exercise files folder. I'm going to choose, let's say, a format from the Libsyn file group. We could change the sample type from the session sample type of 48,000, or we can give it a new one. If I go like that, I can give it a new sample type, change it to something else besides 48,000. I can also change the bit depth from the default 32, but we're going to leave that alone for now. Go down here and it says format. I need to choose which file type I want to choose when I choose from this larger format. It's like a subformat. I'll pick a default here, waveform audio. The list is huge, of course. You've seen this before, but we'll take the waveform audio. And I'll say OK. And now here is the relatively interesting, maybe it's even amazing thing inside this dialog box. You can choose which tracks you want to save. Each of these tracks can be saved as a separate file. And you're sort of like, why would I want to bother saving a track when I've already got that file? Well, here the tracks have effects added to them, maybe, or they've been edited in some way. So this file will be maybe different than the original file. So that's one reason why you might want to save those as individual files. But what's really cool for me is that you can save the bus tracks. How great is that? So I want to save the all instruments bus track that we worked so hard to make, which is everything except the lead guitar and the vocalist. We'll save that. We'll go up here. I'm going to uncheck stereo so we don't save the whole session. We save just that bus track with all the instruments. I click OK. And now I'm ready to go. If I click OK, it's going to actually put this file inside this Audition exercise files folder and also put it over here in the files panel. Takes a couple seconds to do it. Goes to work and then puts that file right over here. That's the name of it right there. I can open it up. There's the mix. It's going to be a subset. Remember, it's not going to have the vocalist. Go over here. No vocalist, just the instruments. And now this file has been saved in our little temporary exercise folder. And lo and behold, there is that file that we just saved, already named and ready to be used elsewhere. Pretty cool little thing. So there's one more thing you can do with the multi-track session. Let me go back to that. You can save a collection of clips as sort of a mix down. So I'm going to choose guitar and I'm going to go control or command click on bass and the same thing for organ left and organ right. Now I've selected these 4 files and I want to create a new track, a new clip from these files, sort of like a mixdown where I've selected a mixdown of a subset of the entire multitrack session. To do that, I can right-click now and choose Bounce to New Track. And I could choose the selected track or selected clips only. Or I can do the menu command, same process, Multitrack, Bounce to New Track, selected clips only. So I'm going to choose this, and what it's going to do when I do this is it's going to create a new track. Those 4 clips will be blended together and put on that new track as a stereo file, and they will appear over here as a file. And they're going to be stored where the current multitrack session is stored, which is in our working files folder, which I've told you not to mess with, but here it's the default behavior, so we can't help it. So we're going to do the selected clips and see what happens. It's going to create a new file. There's a new file in that track right below the selected track. And it shows up over here. It's called Bounce 1. There it is right there, Bounce 1. And I'm going to go take a look at our file to see if it showed up there. Check it out. Go to the working files, go to the multitrack sessions. And lo and behold, here's a new folder inside the multitrack sessions folder. And in that folder is that new file we just made, already saved and ready to go. It's not a temporary file. It's right there and saved, and you can use it right off the bat. So there are 2 basic ways to save multitrack sessions: as a mixdown via the multitrack menu command, or as an export via file export. And finally, you can save a subset of the entire multitrack session by selecting a bunch of clips and then bouncing them to a new track.